Blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Out to Jenny Beth Martin, Tea Party Patriots. Jenny Beth, good to have you with us.
Good morning. It's good to be with you.
So you take a look at what we just heard about James Comey and everything else and the plot to get the president. Your initial reaction?
Well, my initial reaction is that I wonder when people are actually going to be accountable for doing these things that are clearly wrong and in violation, certainly of personnel policy at the Department of Justice. And the next thing that I think is the people who complain about how President Trump does things that just aren't done as president. I just want to say, and what other president has had to deal with someone like James Comey when he first walks into office? He has to do things that aren't done because the swamp won't support him at all. And we've seen that from the moment we found out he was going to become president, the resistance started. And it's ridiculous, it's annoying, and it makes me even more determined to work to help him be reelected.
Well, it's a tough road to hoe when you consider the media convicts the president before there's even a trial.
Right. And, I was speaking to somebody yesterday who is a farmer who's affected by the tariffs. And this particular man said it really is horrible what the media and the left did with our relationship with Russia, because it made it very difficult, if not impossible, for President Trump to work out any sort of trade agreement potentially with Russia to box China in. So you sit there and you think, well, they're doing these things and they are harming Trump, but they're not just harming Trump, they're harming our entire country. And we have an emerging threat from China that they have made more difficult for the President of the United States to deal with to protect American interests.
Well, and you have previous administrations that gave China a pass and tried to position China as our friend.
Yes, exactly. And at least President Trump, to his credit, is taking China head on and saying the things that they've done, the unfair trade practices that we've had from them, the theft of intellectual property, the spying that we may face if they control our 5G and the next generation of communications, he's taking it on and saying, no, we have to continue to be a force across the world that America does. Not just so much for ourselves, but so we can protect freedom and liberty for everyone around the world. And China is a threat.
How big of a threat is China?
I think that the more that I read, the more concerned I am. And the more that I read, the more I think that we just sat back and played right into their hands. And I am no expert on China. The things that I have read talk about how China doesn't think in terms of years the same way that we do in America. Think about it. Our country is not even 250 years old yet, but they have been around for thousands of years. So a few years or a few decades seems like just a blink in time to them, and they can wait out other countries if they need to maneuver. And I think that that's what they've been doing with the United States the last few decades. And it's time for us to right that relationship.
Jenny Beth Martin joining us, KIDO Talk Radio, Tea Party Patriots, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. So let's talk a little bit about the deficits that continue to blow up.
Yeah, the deficits are just horrible. I appreciate the fact that President Trump passed tax reforms, that he is reducing government regulations on businesses so businesses can grow, and we have a booming economy, and the government is taking in even more revenues now than it did before the tax cuts. But we also have more spending, and that's a real problem. I want to see President Trump make spending reform and entitlement reform a campaign promise for his second term in office, so that we can work to save Social Security and to make sure that we get to a debt-free future. If not a debt-free future, at least balance the budget so we can begin paying down the debt. Our children and our grandchildren deserve that, and it's simply wrong for us to keep spending money that we don't have in our generation, expecting their generations to pay for it.
Well, and that's the big danger, correct?
It is the big danger, and I just, as someone who has gone through personal financial crisis and knows what can happen when interest rates rise, we have so much debt right now that the interest on the debt, we're on track for the interest on the debt to be the largest line item in our federal budget, and that is not a good place to be, just paying interest on borrowed money rather than paying for the things that we are actually doing right here and now.
Well, when we take a look at the upcoming election, what are your thoughts about who controls Congress? I mean, you take a look at whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats, the deficit and the debt continue to blow up.
That is true. We've seen it with both parties. The leadership in both parties likes to spend now and let somebody else have to deal with addressing the problems and pay for it later. What I think, again, when I said that I think it's important for President Trump to make this a campaign promise going into his second term, I think that's very important, and I think that we need to be looking to our elected officials, and we can do this with both parties, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, and urge them to address the problem and to address especially entitlement. And by entitlement, I mean Medicare and Social Security. These two programs are going to be bankrupt in the next 15 years. If we don't get them, if we don't address the spending for it. So it is in everyone's best interest to find a way to restructure them in a way that will save them for the people who are dependent on them and to right the deficit that we have in our country. It's going to take political courage and willpower and leadership, and we need that out of both parties. I think that it's easier for a president to do in a second term. We saw what Bill Clinton was able to do with balancing the budget, and also Ronald Reagan did address Social Security when he was president. But these things are much more difficult to do in a first term rather than in a second term when you don't have to worry about re-elections. And it's going to take courage, willpower, and leadership to get it done.
Jenny Beth, if people want to get a hold of you or join the Tea Party Patriots, what can they do?
Go to teapartypatriots.org. Again, teapartypatriots.org. And if you can make it to Washington, D.C. on September the 19th, we're holding a Stop Socialism, Choose Freedom rally, September the 19th in Washington, D.C.
Well, Jenny Beth, thank you.
Thank you.
Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up, the end of the world as we know it from AOC. But before that, some shocking details coming out concerning the report, the Inspector General's report on James Comey. You remember Matthew Whitaker, at one time the former Attorney General, a former Attorney General, had a chance to speak with our own Martha MacCallum last night. Here's what he says about Andrew McCabe. Remember, he was number 2 under Comey at FBI and possibly being indicted.
Really ran that operation.
So Ben Wittes, who's a friend of James Comey's, and he writes Lawfare blog, which is a widely read blog inside of this community, he says that it really looks like the writing is on the wall that Andrew McCabe will be prosecuted, because he says there's no other reason for that meeting between his top-level attorneys and the Department of Justice other than, a last-ditch effort to sort of say, look, there is a way to back away from this. Do you agree with that?
I do, and what I know, having been both the acting attorney general and chief of staff and a U.S. attorney, is that there is something that sophisticated defense lawyers know as what's known as a DAG appeal, or a deputy attorney general appeal, where if you disagree with the U.S. attorney's office, in this case, the District of Columbia, Jesse Liu's the U.S. attorney, if you disagree with their decision, sometimes you can get a hearing or an audience with the deputy attorney general to lay out your case as to why your client shouldn't be charged. I have not seen a DAG appeal be successful. I have seen them many times, with sophisticated defense lawyers. But this is usually when somebody is eminently going to be charged, they try to get to the deputy attorney general and plead their case.
There we have it. So not looking good for Andrew McCabe. Remember, McCabe was fired a day before his pension would have kicked in. Coming up, the end of the world as we know it from AOC, but we've been talking a little bit about, since it's back to school, and everything else driving in the Treasure Valley. And personally, for me, I don't think that we can talk about driving enough. Now, Kyle told me that he had been tailgated this morning at 6:30 in the morning on 2026 westbound. Some guy passed him. Eastbound traffic coming head on, didn't care. Moved on, did the same thing to a truck. Talking about people coming in from out of state. Kevin, they've ruined the Treasure Valley. It sounds harsh, but the sting in any rebuke is the truth, according to Ben Franklin. I agree with that. And, you know, people say, well, Kevin, what was it, Phil Hardy yesterday saying we have good people coming in from California. Well, maybe we do, but we got bad people coming in too. And you have to make a choice when you join a community. Do you adhere to their standards? Do you assimilate? And since we have people coming into the country illegally that are not assimilating, we need in Idaho to make sure that people are coming in from wherever. Now, if you're a good person from California, you'll assimilate. If you're a bad person from California, you're going to be acting irresponsibly. Like this gentleman. Kevin, I'm a police officer in the area and have been doing so for almost 20 years. I was born and raised in the Bora High School District. The people moving here have certainly lowered our quality of life in the valley. A lot of them claim to be conservative, but they bring their California driving habits and attitude with them. Yesterday, my regular patrol day, I dealt with people who had moved here from California almost exclusively all day. I will need to find a different area of the state to retire in. Boise does not feel like home any longer. Keep going with the conservatism with the voice. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. But this is something that we're the only ones talking about. Everybody else, oh, we want to be friends. You have people coming in, endangering the lives of people in Idaho. Let's talk about it next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Rolling on the right side, Kevin Miller in the morning. Let's go to Ryan in Meridian. Ryan, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Hi, Kevin Miller, longtime listener, first-time caller. I wanted to talk to you today about some news that you brought up yesterday with that inmate wanting the sex change. So,
sure. Go ahead.
You had called in and said that all sex offenders should be castrated. Now, that really got to me, and I felt like I needed to call in and put my 2 cents in on that guy. So I don't know if he knows or not, but a lot of people don't understand that Idaho laws are created for good reason. And some of the laws that a lot of people don't know, they don't read into them and they don't actually understand the law itself. And there's been studies done out there that every individual typically breaks about creates 7 felonies per day without even knowing about it. So I understand that he is a sex offender. I understand that he created a sex offense. And I don't know who it was against or the age of the individual or the victim.
15-year-old,
a
15-year-old boy.
Okay. So it doesn't matter if he's, a sex offender or not. He's a felon. And I understand that all felons should get minimal health care, period. It's all coming out of taxpayers' pockets. So they should get bare minimum health care coverage, period. As long as they don't die in prison, that's fine. This elected surgery that he should get, he shouldn't get it. And that's my personal opinion on it. But the guy that says that they all need to be castrated is an extreme, because now guess who has to pay for that castration? The taxpayer. So what's the difference between paying for his sex change versus paying for the castration on all of them? It's not going to solve anything. We're just making more money that taxpayers have to pay out. It's ridiculous. So, but my point originally state law, Idaho state law states that anyone under the age of 18 is not legally allowed to consent to sexual behavior. So
right.
That means every individual in the state of Idaho that has lost their virginity or engaged in sexual behavior before the age of 18 is a sex offender. So it doesn't matter if he's a sex offender or not. It matters that he's a felon. He's a convicted felon, and we shouldn't give him special treatment.
That'd be a lot of castrations.
Exactly. So it doesn't matter if he's a sex offender or not. That's a minor point in the whole situation. The point is taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for this elected surgery, regardless. That's what I got to say on it. So the guy that was just being arrogant, that's saying they all need to be castrated, is just talking out of his ass, and I don't agree with him. So I just wanted to call in and let you know my opinion on that, and I do thank you very much for allowing me to express my opinion on it.
Your opinion.
You guys have a great show.
Thank you, Ryan. Take care.
Thank you.
Your opinion's always welcome here. Traffic and weather together. Good morning, Dave. Kevin Miller in the morning. Back to your phone calls. Let's go to Pete in Mountain Home. Pete, good morning.
Kevin, good morning. Had a thought on the whole problem of people tailgating you when you're moving along at a pretty good clip. This is something I picked up in defensive driving class years ago. What you do is slow down. You don't slow down a lot. Slow down 3, 4, 5 miles an hour. What that does is it opens space in front of you so that when they make an idiot pass, you're not being cut off. And it also gets them around you faster when they make the idiot pass. And it gives you more time to react. But basically, you're opening some space in front of you so that idiot, when he tries that passing, is going to get into that space and not cut you off. And like I said, he gets around you quicker. So just slow down a little bit. I know that's kind of counterintuitive, but just back off a little bit on your speed.
Well, it's crazy. I mean, and, we all catch ourselves doing it, but it's just nuts.
Yeah, and it's seriously annoying when somebody does that. And I have to admit, when I was driving a little Opel Kadett station wagon, it was very annoying and intimidating. But I now drive a pickup truck, so, if they want to sit there 3 inches off my bumper, go for it. I've got a trailer hitch back there they can put into their radiator.
Huh.
But, yeah, seriously, just slow down a little bit. It may be annoying to you, but it is a little safer that way. That if they're going to do something stupid, you want to give them space to do it.
Well, duly noted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kev.
Troy, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. I wanted to call in because I'm listening to this, and I listen to you every morning. But as I'm going to work in this traffic every single morning, I find myself, up in my head, feeling that crazy rage when I see it. And I watch this growth happen, and I've watched the same types of behaviors on the road. And, it's totally obvious that they're from California. In fact, we say a lot of times, well, I know they have their ADA plate now, but I know it was California last month, but they have to change it. And we often wonder, but a lot of the times it is California. But, I think maybe I've gotten a little more, optimistic about things as I've gotten older. And as a business owner here in the Valley and someone who's, recently sold a house and bought a house, I'm feeling some of those pains, selling a house and having to pay twice as much, or driving my car down the road and knowing that it's way more dangerous than it was even 2 years ago. But, as a business owner, I have to also go, wow, my business is doing really good. And I wonder what it is. Yeah, maybe I'm doing okay in my business, but I also notice it's the influx and the different things coming in. So my message is basically, I'm with everyone who's upset about this. I mean, it just drives me crazy. It really does. But I'm just taking a deep breath and saying I have to do what they told me to do when I was little, and that is take a little of the good with the bad and a little bad with the good. And then when I'm talking to people and hey, where are you from? I just try to embrace it from a different point of view. And I just think that if we kind of looked at things a little bit, we can't have it both ways. We can't have our value of our house going up. It's all out of whack, like a lot of things, and we can't have our business doing a little better. And then also just complain because people come and move here. But if we take a different approach in our interactions every day and do what we do as Idahoans, Boiseans, and I'm not talking about the mayor and his be kind. I'm just saying, as adults, we could have some kind of long-term effect. And once they get here and they're here for a while and they see how things are with us, maybe they'll just open their eyes to the fact that, dang, I probably ought to myself take a deep breath and change the way I'm doing some of the stuff that I'm doing. I'm just trying to be a little more optimistic about it. That's all it is.
Well, we love your optimism, Troy. Thank you very much. You have a great one, brother.
Thank you. Missed you ever since back in the day, and I've listened to you every day, so I appreciate you very much.
Well, thank you. Take care, sir.
Take care.
Bye-bye. All right, our friend Troy from the old days. Appreciate that. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. Coming up, Doug from Mountain Home, pro-life, Liberty Linda. The hits just keep on coming. First, we go live to Capitol Hill. Rachel Sutherland joining us, Fox News Radio. Rachel, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin.
The Comey saga continues.
Absolutely. You know, the Inspector General at the Justice Department issued a report yesterday. It really didn't have anything in it we didn't already know. That James Comey, after he left the FBI, had these records of conversations that he had with the president-elect and the president, that he held on to them. He gave one of them to a friend who he knew would leak it to the New York Times, all in an attempt to get a special counsel appointed in the Russia probe, and that is exactly what happened. That's exactly what Comey testified before Congress that he did. But what Horowitz found is that broke the FBI's rules. It broke his employment agreement, therefore basically calling him a bad boy. So, but in the end, in this case, Comey will not face prosecution on this particular matter. But it makes you wonder what's coming down the pike, because these investigations are still going on into the origins of the Russia probe. And oddly, Kevin, we were supposed to get a report or reports by, we were hearing late May or early June on all this. Here we are heading into September and nothing except for this, what was an 88-page report on stuff we basically already knew.
Of course, there are rumors that there could be the prosecution of Andrew McCabe. There could be things going up, but the former FBI director, Comey, got a little chippy yesterday.
He sure did. It seemed he knew this was coming in. He knew the report would come out, and saying something to the effect of maybe people owe him an apology for calling him a liar and a leaker all these years, and asking why people are continuing to believe those who are telling them lies. So he's just still, full frontal on all this. He doesn't seem to mind the controversy. In some respects, Comey seems to even thrive in it. He's really had a fire in his belly since he was fired from the FBI in 2017. So the investigations continue, and they'll continue in Congress coming up. The House Judiciary Committee has made it public that they are looking into possible obstruction of justice, and Jerry Nadler saying that they could be looking at articles of impeachment or not by the end of the year. So you still have these dueling theories as to what happened during 2016. You have the Mueller report out. Soon we'll have the report out, hopefully, from the folks doing the investigations into the origins of the Russia probe. People have a chance to look at them side by side, and, maybe a lot of us will throw our hands up and still not know what happened. And that's the end of the movie. That's the cliffhanger.
Rachel Sutherland, thank you.
Thanks.
Pro-Life joins us now, KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller in the morning.
Yeah, this whole deal with Comey, McCabe, Rosenstein, and the investigating counsel, it's all corrupt. And here's the real problem. William Barr, he's probably not going to really do something about it unless all the Republican members of Congress ask him to do something about it. They've revealed the corruption in their own statements, public statements, and none of our people are doing that now. So if we don't pressure our congressional people to speak up, that say that this all needs to be prosecuted, then it's not going to happen. And, the past administration got by with all kinds of stuff. You take like Fast and Furious. The Attorney General covered that up, and the Republicans never threw a fit about it, and they should have. So I don't know if anything's going to come of it, but...
you don't think McCabe will be prosecuted?
He should be. They all should be. They all knew it was a phony deal. They all knew that the secret dossier was just a big pack of lies, and they went along with it. Every one of them. I mean, there's probably 20 or 30 of them that should be prosecuted. Every darn one of them. And, you know, so we could, I mean, if I was in Congress right now, I'd say to the Mr. Barr, listen, you prosecute these people or I'm going to ask for your impeachment. And I don't even care if there's nobody else that's standing with me. But that needs to happen. So that's my, I got one thing about vaping. You shouldn't put anything into your lungs except pure air. So that's all. But anyway, Kevin, God bless you. And it's so nice that we have a lot of people calling in, and we hope we get more people speaking up.
Well, that's our mission each and every day, to start everybody on the right side.
Yeah. We got to get farther to the right side.
Agreed.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Our great friend Pro-Life. Let's go to Liberty Linda joins us now. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Liberty Linda.
Good morning, Kevin. You know, Obama twice transferred 1,000 illegals held in the California prisons to Boise. Then he released them out on the streets after being held for only 1 year in the Boise prison. Now, I did hear that from someone that is not my personal knowledge. I heard it from someone that has the knowledge of that going on at the time. So I believe that person. And, you know, we could see it in our streets. We could see it when Trump started running for president. People started running up over our bumpers. We were, it was awful what was going on. And you've had many callers that have testified to that also. This all came out of that. And I believe it was trying to change a red state into a blue state, which, you know, it's almost changed to in Boise in that area. So these things, even though what I heard was hearsay, I believe it, and I think many of your listeners will, because we saw it happen there. And
well, you know, we had this conversation recently that, you know, you've got the libs moving in, and the libs mean business. You've got a beachhead here with Dave Beater and his regime. And you have two Ada County commissioners now. They're libs. And, you know, don't tell me you're a Democrat. Okay, so you're an AOC Democrat? What are you Maxine Waters Democrat? What? Oh, no, we're Joe Biden. We're this. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're a lib. Just, you know, here's the deal. Republicans, whether they're moderate or whatever, they're proud to be conservatives. Just once, Liberty Linda, I'd like the libs to say, I'm a lib. You're a lib. Wouldn't you like to be a lib too? Why aren't they proud of their libness?
Well, I understand what you're saying. I understand the difference. There's a difference between a Democrat and a liberal. There are two different things. And we can see our country being filled with it. We see it in our Congress. They're even being elected to Congress. And they do not have the same beliefs as the American people always had. And it bothers us because we love our country. We love the things our founding fathers gave us, and everyone's trying, quite a few people are trying to change that now. You know, to our country is unrecognizable. And, you know, they're bringing communism in.
Sure.
Who would ever think that we would see that in our wonderful country? I certainly didn't.
Well, we got to save the children's.
I know. So we want to uphold good things. Well, uphold good things here in our country, and that's why I'm for Trump. He's for all those things.
That's why Trump saved America.
He did.
And our job is to save Idaho.
Absolutely. Idaho, when I first moved there, absolutely beautiful place, beautiful people, and unfortunately, I saw it change. So, and unfortunately, the people that had lived there all their lives really saw the change.
Ma'am.
So we hear what's being said on your radio station every morning, and the believers are calling in because they know they've seen. So thanks again for your wonderful show, Kevin, that those who see what's going on in our country can call in and voice it.
Well, Liberty Linda, we appreciate you.
Well, we appreciate you, Kevin. You have an absolutely wonderful day.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
This in from Liberal Steve. California, Washington, Utah they've all ruined Idaho. It's too late. We will never return to the bliss. Well, if you're just tuning in, Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. For this hour of the program, we've been looking at a few things, starting off with the debt and the deficit, then talking about just the incredible influx of people and the lack of courtesy when it comes to driving, whether you're going, I don't know, to Utah through Baker City, to Portland, to Yakima, Seattle, or to McCall, or Haley, Twin Falls, wherever. It's just like full contact. And then you go to a parking area, right? I deal with this even in our limited workspace where you have people that just, the parking space isn't big enough for them, so they take up your parking space. It's like sitting at the movie theater. It's like being at the theater or the airlines where people just kind of encroach on your space. And, law enforcement, we have a limited government here. We lost 2 people on motorcycles. We've lost people recently, head-on collisions, people losing control. How do you lose control of your vehicle? Distracted driving, not paying attention to what your number one job should be, which is paying attention to what's on the road, right? That's why it's time for more law enforcement. Here's a sad fact. You want to stop people from speeding through red lights, and I've never been a fan of this. Red light cameras. Well, Kevin Miller can't do that. You want to stop T-bone accidents? Red light cameras. Well, all of a sudden I've got to stop. Don't go excessively fast. No, that's the first thing you learn when you come to the Treasure Valley is when it's a 4-way stop and you get the green light, you need to wait 10 seconds so people can continue to run through the red light. I'm as guilty of it as anybody else. When are we going to just get over ourselves? And I'm not even talking about you. I'm talking about the irresponsible people that don't listen to this show. The irresponsible people that are on the phone, listening to a podcast, listening to the decadent, deplorable, popular music today. Self-indulgent with themselves, not concerned about their safety or anyone else's. We got some issues here. And going back to the police officer that emailed us earlier, most of the people coming in from the state of California. Now, the good people are going to go, Kevin, why are you bagging on us? Well, I believe that there are more bad people coming in. Kevin, they're conservative people coming in from California. Really? Well, regardless, and I'll say this till, I'm no longer here, get rid of your California license plates. Assimilate. We always talk about people coming into this country that refuse to assimilate. It's the same thing with people from California. They refuse to assimilate. And that's sad. That's disrespectful to this state. If you're going to live in the state, then be proud of it. Wear the plates. Wear the brand. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
It's bogus. It's a scam. I talked about how bogus the Electoral College is, and Fox News got really mad.
The Democratic Congresswoman catching heat from the Heartland over that Instagram video where she is calling the Electoral College a racist scam.
What does that kind of thinking do to our public discourse?
Keep in mind, this is sort of the cry of individuals who lost the last election.
I am an Electoral College traditionalist and an evangelist for the Electoral College. And I would be happy to debate anybody about this.
If she went back to a civics class, like in elementary school, and learned about this.
Then, of course, AOC knows best.
Abraham Lincoln only won the presidency because of the Electoral College, exactly, and he was not racist.
But it's true. I'm not taking it back. It's bogus. It's a scam. And, it's not even about rural voters versus urban voters. That's the thing about the Electoral College. It's actually not about rural voters versus urban voters, because if you cared about the voices of rural voters, you would allow all rural voters to come together and to have their all of their votes counted. But instead, if your state is a blue state and you're a rural voter, your vote is essentially erased.
Here we have it, AOC continuing to bash the Electoral College. Why? Because they lost. And they'll continue to lose. That's why the Founding Fathers put in the fairest system possible. But now we have states like Washington, Oregon, California that don't want to count the electoral votes. They want to go by the popular vote. This is what we're up against. This is what voting for a Democrat locally sounds like. Now, maybe you call us extremists. Maybe you're going to smear traditional American values. Okay, for the sake of argument. At 580-5436, how many Boise Democrats, Idaho Democrats, elected officials believe that the Electoral College is bad, that it's racist? Do you share the values that helped you get elected? Or do you share the values of the disruptors? You share the values of the people that want to tear down the great country that has afforded them so many benefits, blessings. The reason why we play this for you is to show you what we're up against.
And so for all those like Republicans that are like, oh, blah, 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 this helps us. What about all of those Republican voters in, for example, New York or in California who feel like their votes don't matter? Whereas suppose if they're in a popular vote, everyone's vote would count equally and we wouldn't give essentially affirmative action to
Now the Electoral College is about affirmative action.
A very few small band of voters. And for all these folks that say the Electoral College is to instill fairness, well, we literally only select one very narrow group to allow their votes to count more than other people. Why don't we give Indian reservations an electoral vote? Why don't we give Puerto Rico and U.S. territories, U.S. all?
They're not states, ma'am. Why don't we give people in Canada the vote? Why don't we give the illegals the vote? Why don't we give everybody the vote? Why don't we give you the vote? Why don't we give you a brain? Kevin Miller in the morning, traffic and weather together. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave.
Thousands, if not millions, of U.S. citizens have zero representation. Why don't we give them an electoral vote? Why don't we accommodate our democracy for Black Americans who were disenfranchised and in many ways continue to be disenfranchised for hundreds of years? We don't do any of that. We only consider fairness for a very like small band. And frankly, this original compromise was to accommodate slave owners. So it's codified and institutional.
There we have it, the brilliance of another Democrat. There we have it. By the way, coming up, we'll share with you another brilliant oration from AOC where she's talking about the end of the world as we know it. And believe it or not, you have millions of people that follow this young lady. Now, social media has been the great disruptor of terrestrial radio, terrestrial media. It's made television irrelevant. It's made a lot of things irrelevant. Hasn't made this program irrelevant. It's helped it. But, you know, do we really believe that millions of people actually believe the pablum emanating from AOC's mouth? Do you? Doug in Mountain Home with Kevin Miller. Welcome back. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Hi, Kevin. Yeah. No, you guys are hitting on topics. Everything you're talking about, you're hitting on stuff that really bugs me. And I can't hear a lot what that gal was saying, but they just, they call this a democracy, and they don't want the electoral vote. They want popular vote. It's just mob rule. That's all they want. They know if they can ever get it, just look what's going on in Portland with the mayor and that. It's mob rule. They'll put who they want in charge of the law. They'll put who they want in charge of politics, and you'll never see this country the same again, people. The only way you're going to see it again is if we have bloodshed. And I hate saying it, but that's what it's going to come to clean this out, period. You just see what she said, your news gal said from Washington, D.C. about Comey. They can lie through their freaking teeth and get away with it. I don't understand how Barr and them guys, I don't get this. If that was me or you and did that, the first week we'd already been in jail. They cover their freaking butts with lies. The only thing I can say is God's really been doing a lot to uncover these Democrats, and he really has. they're eating one another, the ones that are running for president, if you watch the news. You know, and then I just heard your news gal Maggie say that Little says that they came in short with their tax. Where's with their tax money? Kevin, with all this revenue that's coming in and the way the Boise Valley looks, the population, where's the money going, Kevin?
That's the question we're asking, Doug. Where is the money going?
Yeah, where's it going? You know, whose pockets is it lining? You know, and it's corrupt all the way through. You remember me talking about that young man that I was talking about that they wanted to oust out, and he said it was. I thought he said, and I'm correcting myself. He was saying it was Mayor Beater. No, it was the mayor of Eagle, and he moved. He got out and moved. They forced him out, and he said the gal that owns the property, they want it. It's on a corner, and they want it for a parking lot, and they jumped her taxes $100,000. So there you go with your corruptness, right there. You're just at local levels. Just look what it's like in Washington, D.C.
Doug,
and this is not a democracy; it's a republic.
Great call, Doug. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.